Ala Rasulullahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man abdin muslimin yakulu iza amsa wa iza asbaha thalathan. Raditu billahi rabban wa bil islam dina wa bi muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam nabiyan ila kana hakkan Allahi an yarditu yawm al-qiyamah. It is related on the authority of Tawban radiallahu anhu that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if a Muslim says, that is the following supplications, 3 times in the morning and in the evening, Allah has made it incumbent upon himself to please him on the doomsday. Notice the wording. Allah has made it incumbent upon himself. See, nobody can put any, well, Allah, you said this, so therefore, and like, I give you an idea. Remember Iblis is asking Shaitan, them people, insan, man, them guys is mess ups. They gonna do this, they gonna do that. So then Shaitan asks for parole or respite for a while. Give me a little time with them. I'll show you where they're coming from, And so then Allah says, okay, you respited. You got the time. Then Shaitan says, shoot, I'm going to wait for them boys on the right, on the left, in front, behind. You ain't going to find. Now he's talking trash because Allah have given him that respite, that probation. He can't take no probation for himself. He can't do nothing. So the same thing is in this case. Allah has made it incumbent upon himself. Example, Allah has no limitations that the universe can place on him. But Allah placed on himself the rule of mercy. Right? So Allah just says, I have placed on myself, right, the rule of mercy. So that means Allah didn't put certain things on himself. My rule is going to be mercy. I can do what I want. Your record stands for itself. But if I want to overrule the day-to-day guidebook, on forgiveness, I can do that. Why is it can do it? Because it's Allah, right? He can overrule himself because he is himself. So it's a big deal. So Allah has made it incumbent upon himself to please him on the day of judgment. Allah has made it incumbent upon himself to please the believer. That says, I am satisfied with Allah as my Lord. That person is satisfied with Allah as his Lord. And with the religion of Islam as the deen, right? And with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger of Allah. This is in Ahmed and Tirmidhi. And this is one of our favorite, we like to go through those. Yesterday, I went around to the library, and it was a group there, one of the earlier groups that's been here a long time. In fact, we had a lot of association with them in the early years. The books I have, Religion of Islam, when we used to get Qurans in prison, we always got Maulana Muhammad Ali's translation. In fact, if you look at, you go to any older brothers that's over a certain age, they also have not only Yusuf Ali, but they have Maulana Muhammad Ali's translation. And the first English translation, that was it. It was 1917. Then again in the 30s, and then finally the edition I have right now is the same as the old editions, but it's 1951 or something like that. So the group that had a couple of displays, one was around at the library right there on 8th Street. I mean, around 50th. Yeah. Okay. They was there yesterday. They had another program somewhere. And now just my belief is that since we didn't come, because the guy came, the Imam, he came next door. I mean, this was several months ago, and a month or so ago, and I was just hanging out there for a day or two, but he came there. So I knew somebody had pointed him. I mean, I felt somebody. So he came and he invited me to the other program, and I didn't go. And something came up. But yesterday I said, okay, I'll go around there. So yesterday afternoon I went around and I hung out with the brother. Now, these groups, this group of brothers are Qadianis. And Qadianis believe that Ghulam Ahmad, this guy that wrote this, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, received the revelation after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so the Quran says that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is kafata and lannas. He's the messenger to the humanity, and it says he's khatam and nabiyin. Khatam is a seal or a lock, and after you done close it up, you know, it ain't nothing that you can't open the door anymore because it's locked, you know. So we were there now. I could bring a ton of books, like The Religion of Islam, Manual of Hadith. Many of the books that we had in those days came from Qadianis. And the best book, the one that helped me the most, not only Yusuf Ali, the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation of Quran, but a book called The Religion of Islam. And it's from 1936 or 7, something like that. It's called The Religion of Islam. It's a good book, a good thorough book. Some of the stuff that I would read sometimes from here would be from that book. Yeah, if I'm talking about prophethood and stuff, and from behind a veil and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so it's a good book. The Principles of Islam is really a good book. And if you were reading the book, the only thing that you would notice difference in it is one when they talk about mujaddids. Okay, see, I don't know if anybody remember, but Imam Warthaddin Muhammad used to refer to himself as the mujaddid. You know, well, we used to say the chief is the mujaddi. You know, I mean, we can't talk right, so. But that was a deep word. And technically, that's what he is. That's what he was. Because the mujaddid is one that revives, restores, and renews the religion. So what he did with black people in America, that's what it was. Okay, but he changed his. First, he was a supreme minister. That's in 75. Right after Elijah Muhammad died, he was a supreme minister. Then he came out with a lot of articles. You know, you could see the transformation. Then he came out with he was a mujaddid. And then that was the middle 70, that was 75, 76. He was right around that time. Then after that, he came out with, he was the president. And then he was the last title, yeah, that's right. Okay, those are not as deep as Mujaddid. They're not as deep as Mujaddid. Okay, but he was looking at his own evolution, and so he was looking at that, and he had some information on Mujaddids. In fact, I had a book called by Maulana Maududi, A Short History of This Revivalist Movement in Islam. And it was a book about Mujaddids. And I gave that lecture at Leavenworth during 76. And man, the brothers, they thought I was the sheikh that floated in. I wasn't the Imam, but I was one of the active brothers. Man, they thought I had floated in on a carpet. Man, Musa laid it out, after that lecture, because we know the chief was a mujaddid, but we didn't have no idea. And I got this book, man, and it was talking about revive, renew, restore. It was laying out mujaddids, what a mujaddid. Man, and that fed right, that had the Negro rolling. He said, that's the chief there. That's because we was always souped up. Anyway, yesterday I went around and visited the brothers, and it was a great experience because they were brothers that Qadianis, except for they got several big mosques around too, especially out in Silver Spring, and now a lot of people believe that they were British agents, that the British had backed them, because they're all around the world, but they developed in Pakistan, what was in India. And so the British always was trying to find some fitna to start. So this group, they were shunned by the Muslims, the general Muslims. But they were, if you watch the practices they do and all the stuff, you wouldn't know. The only thing that was different was that they believed that Ghulam Ahmed had received revelation after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, there's one group that believed he was a mujaddid. If that's what they believed, that group that believed that Ghulam Ahmed was a mujaddid, they're still within the framework of Islam. So I wanted to see what this group was. So I was hinting at that. No, they said no. He received divine revelation. And then they were trying to explain to me about the ayat, Khatam al-Nabiyin. No, there's so many places where Khatam is mentioned, and it don't always mean this and it don't always mean that. Well, here's the thing. People that are on the outskirts of Islam or any subject, they get very skilled at argumentation. Like when Malcolm was teaching the teachings of the Nation of Islam, just imagine, do you remember the student enrollment and actual facts and all those things? That was way back. Okay. We had to learn all that stuff verbatim. Because, in those days, a lot of people didn't read and write. And when you wrote your letter to Chicago, you had to copy the letter on, that paper that you can see through. Okay, you put that over a sheet of paper and you copied. You didn't write your own letter to Chicago. You had to copy that because, the further you go back, we couldn't read and write. When I was in the prison, I was, out of all the brothers, I could, there were people still in the 60s that could not read and write. That they would just, if you was picking cotton all the time, like you didn't have time to go to school, and one of them one-room schoolhouses, you might have got, definitely you would go to the 6th grade and that would be it. But all that high school and all that was up north and that was out west. But all of us that were from the South, I would be considered well educated because I'd been to high school. Finally, I got my GED and all that stuff. But our people, that's why you didn't. If you took it back to the 30s when they had to write a letter, they copied it. They had to copy it on that. The paper you could put over this and you could see through it and you could copy this just like it's written on here. Anyway, this book, The Philosophy of Islamic Teaching, I like to just read a little bit about it because the talk we're going to have today deals with evolution and growth. And it says, Philosophy of Teaching of Islam, Hadrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah and Mahdi. Now, if you remember, and the back of used to be Muhammad Speaks, or even where they had about the promised Mahdi, all right. That was Elijah Muhammad that they was talking about. But here they said a promised Messiah. Messiah is the Masih, and Mahdi. So he's the Messiah and he's Imam Mahdi. See, if Esau is Mahdi, if Esau is the Messiah and Imam Mahdi is to come, and they're going to be in Jerusalem at the same time, and they're going to call the Adhan for Isa alayhi salam. They're going to call the Adhan, and then Esau, they're going to say Esau lead the prayer. He's going to say, no, the Adhan was called for Imam Mahdi. In other words, Imam Mahdi and Esau, according to Hadith, right, that we have, they would be on the scene at the same time. So they're two different persons. Right here, this says that Hadrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah, he's the Messiah and Mahdi. So he's both. And the only place you find this is places like in the Nation of Islam. I don't want to go backwards, but we was having a big dinner in South Africa. And when I was speaking, I was giving a talk before Juma, not the Juma, in Johannesburg. And then after that, what's the name in the nation? I'll think of his name in a minute. He's number 2. He goes all over Africa after Farag. I think of his name in a minute. Okay, so after the talk, we had dinner over at one of the big carpet factories. One of the wealthy Muslims. We had dinner over there. And he was telling me, well, you shouldn't tell them that you were a drug dealer and what have you, and because they'll have it in their mind. I said, no, that's a great selling point for Islam. I said, Malcolm, all those people, they pointed out that that's the life they was living, And we accepted Islam, and that's a big selling point for Islam, that, hey, if I was this far deviated and then you think I'm straight now, just stick around. This deen gets you straight, good, right? So that's a selling point. Anyway, he told me, if I can remember, so I could see he wasn't repentant at all, because at that time, Farrakhan had taken about his fourth Shahada. At that time, I think it's 5 or 6 by now, at least. And so there was groups over there calling themselves the Nation of Islam, with that old principle, the black man is God and the white man is the devil. And they were making Farrakhan real popular. You got to remember, that stuff was going all over the world. You don't see it now, but you got to remember, during the Million Man March period, they were trying to sell that subject all over, but in Africa it couldn't catch hold because Africa had more experience with real Islam. But they had a representative over there, and he got a lot of credibility. He was, and I knew him pretty well. Anyway, we sitting there talking. So the Indian Muslims that were, hosting us, one group was hosting him, the other group was hosting me. So he said, we was talking, so I would ask a few questions every now and then of him to see how the evolution was going along. So when I saw that it was a big stall in the evolution of the group, I asked questions. I said, so what's Farad Muhammad? He said, well, Farad Muhammad is the Mahdi. And I say, and he's the Messiah too? Yeah. Okay, that's 2. Then I said, well, so now what's his position? So he said, he's like Jibril. You know where Jibril brought a message to Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, yeah. He said, well, he's like Jibril. I said, oh, so Elijah Muhammad, I said, see, the Christians got Trinitarianism. I didn't know the word, but it is a real word. I said, y'all got quadrilism. You got 4. So Elijah Muhammad is a prophet and a messenger. He's the Messiah. He's Imam Mahdi. And he's Jibril. And all mixed in that is Esau. I said, y'all got 4. I said, the Christians, they just got 3. Y'all got them. Y'all have knocked them out of the box. He was mad. He said, so this is for the audience. We're having dinner, and the other Muslims that follow Quran and Sunnah, they're listening. See, they don't know who they are, right? So that's what I'm doing today. I'm exposing where they are now. Not only are they not progressing, they're regressing. But anyway, you can see where a lot of that stuff come from the Ahmadiyas, from the Qadianis. A lot of our old people, Rasan, Roland Kirk, a few of the people, Dakota Staten used to be, it was a few musicians. They were Qadianis. They didn't follow the Sunnah. And the reason, and this one of them still alive. He mentioned his name the other day. He's still alive. Anyway, we are very fortunate here in America that we had a chance to go through all of that stuff and evolve. But we evolved without meanness and hatred and what have you. So when I have that translation of Quran, which is basically very good, when I have the religion of Islam, when I had a manual of Hadith, in the old days, that's the only stuff we could get on Islam. And the British backed them up because they didn't push jihad a lot, right? So Maulana Muhammad Ali, he talks about the far jihad, the near jihad, and jihad and nafs, which are all real jihad. The far jihad is way over there, The near jihad is right here, what you're dealing with in front of you. And you can't do none of them unless you take care of jihad and nafs, the jihad to control yourself. Anyway, Maulana Muhammad Ali deals with this. I'm going to speed up here. The point is this, is that we've come in contact with a lot of stuff here in America. And Allah done blessed us to evolve through it, to look at it, understand it, and da-da-da-da. And we don't have enmity toward like those people, our brothers. So I talked with the brother yesterday, and I was talking about Islamic unity and dealing with the fundamental principles of Islam and leaving the details to everybody else. So if your details is you're Shia, then good. All those details that relate to that, but we all agree on if you eat our meat, if you face our Qibla, you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, right? And you believe in Allah and Muhammad, then you're home free, right? This is what the Hadith says. This is the framework for Islam. Over the history of humanity, see, a lot of people think it's 6 madahib, 4 Sunni and 2 Shia. No. In the beginning, there were literally hundreds of madahib, hundreds. Here's why. If a group of people went to China, which several did, and they took Islam, that's why it's Muslims in China. They went all the way to China. And guess what? The group of people taught Islam from what they knew, right? And they did a good job. Another group that went to Syria, going the other way, they were Sahaba too. They taught what they knew of Islam. But see, so everywhere in the world, everybody taught what they knew of Islam, the Sahaba. And no Sahaba just knew everything about Islam. So all the fundamentals they had down pat, but there are some little derivatives that they were not familiar with. That's when the collection of Hadith come. The collection, Al-Muwatta, is over 100 years after. It's the first collection of Hadith, Al-Muwatta, Imam Malik, I think. And those are Hadith from the people of Medina only. He didn't take it from people, because he knew Medina is a spot where this jumped off at, or where it sustained itself. So I'm not taking any Hadith. Is everybody familiar with Al-Muwatta? Muwatta, it's a collection of Hadith. Then Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari might have collected 300,000 Hadith, let's say. But he only kept 9,000 of them. I mean, he kept the others in a separate book, but the ones that he called Sahih, it was several thousand, not 300,000. Imam Muslim also collected several, I don't know, 100,000, and he kept 4,000 in his Sahih of Muslim. Sahih just means genuine. So any hadith you find in either Bukhari or Muslim is considered genuine. I mean, it's a long process of research to go through, the whole process of whether this is Sahih, whether it's broken. Okay. So anyway, what people say about themselves. There's a collection of Shia Hadith. And I think it's 16,000 in the collection. 5,000 are Hassan. And 111 are Sahih out of 16,000. That's what they say. That's what they say. 111. I mean, I got this book out of, I could go right to the library and pull it out, right? There it is. That's okay. So, but that's the standard, the collection of hadith. That's why some of the stories don't fit. Many of the stories are like some of our weak hadith from Sunnis. You will hear them coming from members of the Shia community from the sayings of the Imams. Well, since I study everything, I can recognize where I heard this before. Okay, a lot of people don't study like that. Anyway, it's a long story. I'm not saying that's bad or that's good. But what I mean to say is this. Since Muslims went all over the world, right, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, each group went there and they were teaching Islam. Wherever they went. Okay, they knew certain parts about Islam. Some went to Syria, some went to Africa, right? So if you look at the Muslims, some pray like this, right? Yeah. You look at some, they pray like this. Some pray with their hands down. Some say, well, Imam so-and-so, he couldn't hold his hands up, so he prayed like this. It's okay. Well, how did the Prophet ﷺ do it? So everybody follows what their scholars say. So we weren't learning how to pray like this, so it's fine. We're not going to change it. There's nothing wrong with it. So, But the point is this, is that in later years, they cut down a number of madhabs or groups. And you could turn the heat, because if they need a little heat, would you turn it up a little? Yeah, because it's getting chilly now. I can feel it myself. But anyway, so everywhere there were Muslims, they were only aware of what they knew about Islam. That didn't mean the other part that they didn't know was right, because they're a group of Sahaba. They're all in China. Basically, they're cut off from the rest of the Muslims. Visitors come every now and then. So they remember the hadith, they remember how to pray, they remember the fundamentals from that group. And the scholars in that area develop and they teach. So wherever you would go in the world years ago, you would have the basic Islamic teaching, but you would have different madhahib, it was hundreds of madhabs, groups. And each one knew what it knew. It wasn't saying the other ones was wrong. It said, this is what we teach, what we knew. Right? And so, this is a thing that later on it became codified into this Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, they codified it. And so, at that time, it became kind of solidified. And then they had the Itna Ashari and Zaidi's two groups. And then they have different groups, like the people of Yemen. When you hear them call the Adhan, they say, Hayal al Khair al Amal, like Shias do. But they believe in Abu Bakr and Umar, Shaykh Khan, the two. They believe in those. So, but now they're shifting over to becoming full-fledged Shias because they're being cut off and isolated, and they're getting real help from Iran, which is Shias. The more we understand about all of these trends, the better we can behave in the Islamic perspective. Okay, I'm going to just read a few little things about the author. Born in 1835 in Qadian, that's why we call them Qadianis. Hadrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the promised Messiah and Mahdi. That's what they said now. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the brothers. Are you the crew that believe in him as just a mujaddid? That means you could still be an Islamic club. The promised Messiah and Mahdi remain dedicated to the study of Quran and to a life of prayer and devotion, finding Islam the target of foul attacks from all directions, the fortunes of Muslims at a low ebb, faith yielding to doubt and religion only skin deep. He undertook vindication and exposition of Islam. In his vast corpus of writings, including his epic-making Barahin-e Ahmadiyya, his lectures, discourses, religious debates, etc., he argued that Islam was a living faith and the only faith by following which man could establish contact with his Creator and enter into communion with Him. His teaching contained the Holy Quran, the law promulgated by Islam, were designed to raise man to moral, intellectual, and spiritual perfection. He announced that God had appointed him the Messiah and Mahdi. Okay, this is, now you're getting into heavy stuff. Okay. As mentioned in the prophecies of the Bible and Quran and Hadith, in 1889, he began to accept initiation into his community, which is now established in 198 countries. His 91 books are written mostly in Urdu, but are in Arabic and Persian. After his demise in 1908, that's when he died, the promised Messiah was succeeded by Mawlavi Nuruddin Khalifatul Masiha. That means the Khalifa of the Masih, on the death of Mawlavi Nuruddin in 1914, da, 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 who was also the promised Messiah's promised son, was elected as Khalifa and remained in office nearly 52 years. He died in 1965 and was succeeded by his eldest son, the promised grandson of the promised Messiah. After 17 years of meritorious service, he passed away in 1982. He was succeeded by his younger brother, Mirza somebody, who, having led the community to its present strength and global recognition, passed away in 2003. The fifth Masih, Messiah, is the present head of the community and enjoys the distinction of being the great grandson of Ghulam Ahmed. Okay, the point I'm going to make is this, and then we'll get on into our subject. My reason for going there was just to, they've been coming by asking me, and I had a feeling that this group gets along well with governments, the British and the Americans, especially, because they say something different than what we believe, that so they're going to get pushed. They can they get backed up by the government. This is what we was taught, and when you go around and look, this is what you'll find. Okay, there's a big group of them in Oakland, and the Imam in Oakland several years ago was Muhammad Abdullah. He was the head of Qadianis in that region. He was a Pakistani brother. He was very learned in Islam. And so he had a lot of Islamic history, but he had been the Imam in Fiji Islands. And Imam Muhammad, when I was at the Masjid, because the community was still kind of black orientated, so they was feeling a little strange about an immigrant being an imam. But this imam, he told some jokes. There's a group that was a big, Yusuf Bey had a big bakery, Your Black Muslim Bakery in Oakland. And a couple of guys came from, this is what Imam Muhammad is telling us at Juma, because his birthday was February the 26th. Okay, that's Savior's Day. So he was saying, yes, the brothers came by and they gave me all this money and stuff, and they said, we want to thank you for what you did for our leader. And he said, no, I'll take your money, but I didn't do that, and I'm not, he was telling them, I'm not Farad Muhammad. Remember Savior's Day, February 26th? That's why we're so fortunate, man. We got niggas that's been really screwed up. But it's good to be around to observe all of that. We're there in Oakland, and just to talk about the stuff that went on there. Look, later on, Fahim Shuaib became the imam there. But before that, in the 70s, especially, Imam Muhammad asked him a question when he was choosing. Imam Muhammad himself chose him as imam because this person, Muhammad Abdullah, had been one of the teachers of Imam Muhammad. Okay, he had been one of the teachers, not in a class like we was, but one of the teachers. He was on Islamic philosophy and what have you. So this is, I would think, around 1980-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe a little before, maybe a little after. Could have been 77. It's between 77 and 81, something like that. But Imam Muhammad, there was a big meeting in the Masjid, and so he just asked Muhammad Abdullah one question. He said, what tafsir would you use? Because we had both the tafsir of Yusuf Ali and Maulana Muhammad Ali. So Imam Muhammad, he told him, I'll use my own tafsir. It's like right now, we've studied all the tafsir, so when something come up, you're qualified to use your own commentary on that. You study all the tafsir, what everybody said, and then you give your own rendition of what you think it means. That's the way, that's how knowledgeable he was. So he wouldn't use, the question was, will you use Maulana Muhammad Ali's translation as commentary? Or will you use Yusuf Ali's? He said, I won't use either one. Basically, is what he's saying. I'll use my own. I'll give my own commentary to ayats and everything, which was fine. Anyway, he became the Imam there, and he was an honest Imam. I can't say that about the colored Imams. We'd like to say that, but it just ain't possible. Anyway, so here we are, dear believers. We're going around again. Look what this says on the back about the book. The essay entitled The Philosophy and Teachings of Islam was written in Urdu by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the Promised Messiah, and Mahdi. The invitation of Swami Shugan Chandar, under whose auspices the Conference of Great Religions was held in Lahore Town Hall on the 26th to the 29th of December, 1896. Okay. And I just wanted to read that because this book right here is from colonial times, deep into colonial times, right? And it does not deal with evolution. When I was talking with the brother yesterday, I had certain things in mind. I said, we deal with the fundamentals of Islam. You face our Qibla, you eat our meat, you say our prayers, then you're a Muslim. So I was telling him what we deal. I said, we deal with the fundamentals of Islam. And we leave the details to everybody else. Like we leave the Shia details, that's the Shia's business. Or we can't work together. But what he was saying was, at first he was saying, no. He was going to now push his ideas, which are from these days. And I was around there to find that out. Where are they coming from now in modern times? They're still back there. They want to have dinner and stuff. But after the meeting, I'm not, because, see, I talked about unity. I said the Muslims have to have unity. So unity comes from the basis of Islam. Who is Allah? Who is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What is the fundamentals of Islam? Da, da, da. Okay, you accept those, finished. Because as I was telling him, I said, everybody has their details. Right? They have their details. And the details are because of their historical contact with Islam. And that's why here in America, we talk about, we follow Quran, we follow Hadith. We love the historical pattern because the Quran says travel in the earth and see what was the end of those before you. And then we have our own, what we have, our response to those first three lineups. You see what I mean? Our own response right here. Okay, I would say that we're the only ones that have incorporated that, because everybody else maybe have incorporated, of course, the Quran, they do a good job. And then the Hadith, their selected Hadith. They remember, there'll be 73 different sects in Islam. All of them going to go to hell but one, which is us. Everybody else is going to hell but the Salafis. Everybody, Maliki, Shafis, Hanbalis, they going to hell, period. That's it. There ain't no discussion. They gone. They might as well get on their fire suit, I mean, because they going to be in the hot spot from now on. That's what they say, right? And all the hadith about be friendly to Muslims, smile at Muslims. If you can't give them charity, give them a smile. You ever see them Negroes, especially at me, when they see me, they frown up. At Musa, you ain't seen one. If they come here, they going to sit here for a minute as not spies, but and I'm going to lay it on them. I'm going to start hitting them. Boom. And they're going to get up. You ever see them? You get up and walk out. Because I want to find out, are you here because of that? So I, brrr, brrr, brrr. Are you from New York and you came here the New York Imam sent you here? That's what you look like. Brrr, brrr. They're going to get up. You ever see people at Juma? They get up and walk out. Why? Because somebody sent them here, and I'm going to bring that up till they get out. They just show who they are, because you don't need to do that. Don't play with each other. Don't play with us, and we won't play with you. But if they come in like that, we're going to just have a good time. Anyway, we do this because here we are now. Okay, let's get to now, where we are now. I just wanted to say that because, see, this little stuff never stops. You can't say, well, when will they evolve? They have not evolved. Like I say, the writings, 1896, and a guy dies in 1909, 1908, something like that. Died in his own vomit and stuff. They're saying he deserved it. I don't say that, though. So anyway, I wanted to pick up on this conference. This writing is from the days of the British Empire, deep into the British Empire. So what about us? I would like to now mention a few things about where we are now. This won't have any order to it, but it'll cover certain subjects. If you remember, we discussed post-traumatic growth. So post-traumatic growth means that we believe that we've been involved in that, deep in it. In fact, we believe that what we've been dealing with, we believe that we've had more effect in arranging this stuff than the system has. Because we believe that in this section, if you would read our writings from As-Sabiqun from 95 on, all of these subjects we talk about, we have to be aware of something. Okay, so Uh, the West has this idea about post-traumatic syndrome, and what it does. But we have an idea about post-traumatic growth. That after you deal with trauma and challenge, you could be diverted or destroyed by it, or you could grow by it. We use it, okay. If people have been listening to what we've been talking about all along, we've been talking about strategic engineering for a long time. Strategic engineering, that means engineering our environment. And we talked about the historical experience that we faced. We call it historicizing, chronicalizing, documentalizing, and archivist. That's what we wanted to do. We say it almost every week. That we wanted to have a historical graph of the process of Islamic development in America and, of course, the world. And we had to chronicleize it, to put it in order, in a chronicle, put it in an order to where it's understandable and hopefully digestible to the public. And as a documentalist, you would have to document all the things that would be going on. I have here, you can see this is Friday, September the 2nd, 1983. Can y'all see that from this distance? 1983. Yeah, you can, okay. So I have here that I ran 10 miles that day. Boy, that mean with sweat gear on, plastic, and 5-pound dumbbells in each hand, running in the hills, not these flat trails. But I have yo tuve una, I didn't know the word at that time, dream. So it's saying, yo tuve, or should be yo tingo, but if yo tuve is past tense, that means I had a dream, or I have a vision of our own at this time. This is almost 40 years ago. That I have a vision of what we, where we should be going, where we could be going. And that's just a little note to myself. That's 1983. That's several years. That's good God Almighty. That's 38 years ago. Something like that. Yeah, that's 38 years ago. Anyway. So we've had a lot of experience with this. In the process, we knew or we expected to go through an evolutionary process. So we had in our mind that we want this to be, or we hope that it'll be a long-range struggle. That, as far as our planning goes, it's going to be long-range, And so it's used in historical revolutionary literature as a protracted struggle over a long period of time. And that's what it's been. Okay. But we've also studied, at this time, we were still deep in our history, and Quran, Sunnah, we're getting ready we didn't open our Masjid. We didn't open the building technically. It's 83, the first part of the year. We bought it in 81, and we fixed it up, but we opened the other in 1980, and we was renting it. Then it changed over, going through those early developments. But now we're getting solid. Okay. So what we believed is very clear. Our historical experience taken into account, including now strategic engineering, In this period, 1983, 84, 85, 86, if you remember in 86, I have another piece of paper where I've written something on it. They've stolen an accordion folder and what have you, taken some of my, because I lived in the Masjid and I had all my papers, everything right there about where I slept, right there on the floor. So at that time, they took an accordion folder, they took some other information, and I said, fine. I said, that's big. I said, for that reason, we going big. Not that we evolving. But at that point, we know that we have to evolve from 1980 to 1986. We have already went through several stages of evolution just to be around for 6 years. 6 years is a long time in the movement in those days because people would last a year, 2 years, 5 years. 5 years was a big, long time, you know. Okay, our historical experience taken into account. Historicized, chronicalized, documentalist, archivist. And we called that strategic engineering. Strategic human engineering. Some call it human engineering, you know, in sales, how to sell it. They call that human engineering, how to engineer people to do that. We call it strategic engineering. And by this time, we kind of know what we're up against. And we also know at this same year, one of the informers, when I said, well, you got to go, because in those days, we don't do like now. Informers are welcome to stick around as long as you want. But in those days, we had the old time, you're a tattletale, you have to go. So as I'm getting rid of him, and I got rid of him for certain reasons, he looked at me and said, you don't know what you're up against. And I looked at him and said, you don't know what you're up against. That was true. He was looking at me. He was a police officer. He and his brother, he was on me on that coast, and his brother was on the Dar al-Islam movement on this coast. Right? They were more well informed about Islam than I was. Not technically, because they had went to Hajj in 1980 with the Dar al-Islam movement. See, their job was to focus on the movement. If they out in Oakland, all they're doing is waiting around till something pop up Islamic. If they're on this coast, his brother, the Dar al-Islam movement, and it was not only him, but it was, I would say, hundreds of agents in those days. Now it's up into the thousands. I'd just say, just thousands. You know, known and unknown agents, but these people knew exactly what they was doing. So I told him in 86, I said, you don't know what you're up against. And the way I felt about it, you ain't never dealt with a nigga that's thinking. And you ain't never dealt with a nigga that's not gonna bite at every bait you throw out. You're not gonna mess with nobody that's, at that time, it's just several years celibate. But you're not gonna mess with no Negroes, Imams, that'll go no 14, 15 years of strict celibacy for no movement. They don't do that, especially they full of juice and running the hills and you know what I mean, that the healthy as they can be. They ain't gonna do that because they're not gonna be that dedicated to, you know, something, I don't know. So that's where we was coming from. We was there and we did it. Okay, and I know what we did and I know where they was. So our historical experience taken into account, historicized, chronicalized, documentalized, and archivist, strategic engineering. In those days, we saw that we were surrounded. So what we had to do we saw we were surrounded, so we have to create an environment where, hey, y'all come on in and have a good time. Don't just stay out or come in one at a time and pick a peek. Come on in. So this is a year after this, 1987. I told Abdul Malik to his face one night at the Masjid, there was an Arab brother there with him. I said, you the police? I know you're the police. There's no question about it. But here's what you do. You work with boss man, and then you just cooperate, give us a little heads up every now and then. So I believe probably within a few years, he felt that he had gotten so well arranged that there's nothing I could do about it. Because remember, if I'm the only one there, the movement, then all the students, all the people they got are with them. That's why when Abdul Malik left, all the students, they go with him. Why? Because he brought them. When you look at some of the pictures from our conference in Oakland, that might have been 2000. You see it's mostly immigrants from campus. They dealt with, they pretended to be on our team. And I knew who they were, and that's all. But see, they don't realize something, or they realize it now. They thought that we was joking. In 1986, when we said, when our kids graduate from high school, they should have to stand on the stage for 1 hour and have everybody in the assembly pointing at them and whispering and talking about them, and they have to stand there and take it. And the next thing, they should get a trip around the world to see what the world looks like. That's what we said then, and then if we was able, we'd still do the same thing, but that passed. Anyway, so the point is this, is that there was never a time in modern history where the numbers of the people involved had any effect on us. They just didn't. They thought they did, or they thought we would respond. They have not been in charge of this, especially during later years. We have. Okay? That's why strategic engineering. Now, a lot of people say we're punching above our visible weight, that we're just a handful of people and we punch in like a serious Islamic. Well, we are, because we're the main movement in the United States. Those other guys, they have thousands of people. They just don't have no punch. Don't have no punch, right? You could tell that we are who they are by how many people they hire to keep an eye on us. How many people, right? How many people have been through here? Zoop. How many people float around here? How many people? That means that we already know. This is not arrogance. This is just being able to historicize, chronicleize, you know what I mean, from the archives, adding up, addition and subtraction. Who are you? Right? You have to answer that question eventually. Who are you? How long you been around? Where you headed? Okay. Strategic engineering. They say we're punching above our weight. Social, scientific, historical. So we're a psycho-social, psycho-spiritual movement. When we write stuff in our writings like somewhere over the rainbow, it sounds like googly gook, but no. somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. What we're talking about is something only kids would be thinking about. Because an adult wouldn't think about what we're trying to build. They wouldn't let that sink into that. That's a dreamland. You know, produce a world where people are good and happy and not oppressed ain't gonna happen. It's a dream world. Well, why not dream? That's why it said back, Yo tuve una dream. That's from 1983. And it ain't went nowhere. It ain't going nowhere. That one then is still the one now. And we have evolved. See, what we're going to talk about is evolution. Nobody evolved. They won't do it. They refuse to evolve. Or, what did we say years ago? They evolve behind the curve. If the world is traveling at 100 miles an hour, now it's traveling at 1,000 miles an hour. But if this world is traveling at 100 miles an hour, they evolve at 40 behind the curve. Wherever they get to, the people already did their stuff and gone. When Iquan came over here, that's what we was basing it on, and they talked with Obama, and they got a clearance, and they had that gobbledygook over there in Egypt, and they thinking Tahrir Square and all that. And I get a call from Tahrir Square. Muhammad Al-Asi and the guy Masood Chajari in the Islamic Human Rights Commission in London. No, Imam Musa, this is a real deal over here. I said, that ain't no real deal. That ain't happening. No, we're here at Tahrir Square. I said, good, that's good. I remember exactly who I was. I happened to stumble into Magic Johnson Theater. I don't know what I was doing there. Maybe I needed some popcorn or something. But I said, I don't believe it. The stuff that was coming on the movie was more real than what they was talking about over there. Not that I was watching the movie. I'll never confess that I just walk in there and watch all of that stuff. You know, and try to see what Boss Man is showing everybody. Because, see, in the nation, we used to call it sciencing up. Like if we was in a TV room watching TV, we had to watch these white folks so we could science up on it. You know, the Negro is really something. So that's probably what we was doing over there. We was sciencing up on the white man. Anyway, Tahrir Square, I'm telling you, Muhammad Al-Asi and Masood Chajari called me on the phone from Tahrir Square. And they're telling me that there's a revolution really happening there. I said, ain't nothing happening there. Nothing. And of course, it wasn't nothing. Everybody got killed. Everybody, it wasn't happening. Then they had the big finality on February the 11th, the same day as the revolution in Iran. I said, man, that thing is contrived. It's a big bunch of stuff, excuse me. Yeah, everybody stuff like that. Strategic engineering, they say we're punching above our weight. We're not punching above our weight. We wouldn't be able to punch if we was punching above our weight, right? And are we connecting? Are we going up and Boss Man coming down, or is it the other way around? When we throw a punch, does it hit Boss Man on the chin? 99% of the time? That's pretty good. If it's true, that means that we're not punching above our weight. We're doing what we believe Allah wants us to do. So this is social, scientific, it's historical, and this is where it gets easy for us and hard for them. It's hard for them because they don't believe a nigga can do it. They don't act like you can't. They don't make, no matter how long, they don't make niggas that you can't mislead with this, that, and other. It's got to be money, it's tender, something. He got to go. He can't do it. Well, it haven't worked. It haven't worked. And we know it haven't worked. And he's the one frustrated, not us. You wouldn't be frustrated after you done invaded the last two. You got lucky and invaded Panama in the 90s and slipped out before anybody got tripped up and stuff. Invaded Grenada. But what about in Korea? They making a big movie in China. The biggest movie is about the Korea. And the same thing we talked about 2 years ago in this very class here is the same thing about Chosin Reservoir and how they lost that, how they, it seemed like if you add up the time it takes to make the movie and there's somebody paying attention to what we say here, it adds up like that. China and Japan should, okay. Okay, so you don't have to worry. All we got to do is, since we're on the subject, just briefly let them know. China, please don't build any more aircraft carriers. Don't do any of that stuff. They're trying to make you fight them. Leave them alone. What China should do is make fun of America. Make fun of them. Why should they? Well, Taiwan. Let them spend all their money on that junk. It don't make no difference. They broke the Russians that way, right? They broke the Russians by fixing it so the Afghans can shoot down all their planes, and pretty soon they couldn't afford it. But America, the Russians dealt with cash and carry, right, and their system, and America deals with fluffy wuffy. They just say, poof, and there's $1 zillion. And you don't know when it's going to come crashing down. It's going to come down, but you can't put no date on it, right? So anyway, we can taste things are in sight now. This stuff about somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, a land that I heard of once in a lullaby, it does sound like dreamland. It sounds like that's a fairy tale. A good world, a nice world where human beings do things that are generally good and generally right. It sounds like with all the wars we've had, when you read history, all it is they raised the Roman army, had 300,000 men cut to pieces, by so-and-so's army. You know what I mean? Then so-and-so's army, Attila the Hun, got cut up by the Romans, and then he cut them up even worse. And then that's all it is a long history of murder, weapons, and killing, right? And so when we talk about this possibility, that's what you read about in Scripture, Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the poor, blessed are the weak, they will inherit all. That's where you find this. They classify that stuff as dreams and not real. They classify strategic management organization and leadership principles. They said this is the stuff. War is the stuff. Dominating other people is the stuff. All of that is real. This other stuff, it ain't going to work. We say the exact opposite. We said, hey, we've been doing that stuff for so many thousand years and it hasn't worked. Because it can't work. It can't work. Because once you dominate another people, Pretty soon you eat up all the food, and a few of them left, scrape around, and they be tough as they can be, and pretty soon they bump you off, and then they take all the food, right? And all of y'all start dying off, and then the ones that took over get fat and lazy. Their kids get fat and lazy and dumb, right? And then the same kids of some other collection of conglomeration of people take them over. This is just that world history that's not based on religion, right? Is the ones that keep repeating itself over and over again. We're saying no. The only thing is we got to hurry up a little. We've been doing all of this on Negro time, on colored time. Well, we got forever. We'll just see how it happens, right? And we'll drag it out. See, this long-range, protracted struggle have been our pattern of behavior. It ain't nothing new in it. We just thought that it would be a protracted, long-range struggle. All right. As-Sabiqun, we have to do several articles, but what we're going to do on As-Sabiqun, we're going to take, since this is the end of a certain period and the beginning of another, we're going to collect a lot of our writings. I mean, just different little parts of it, put dates by it, and then we'll have it retyped, and that will be to show everybody where we are and what we have, that everything is like basically like what we said. We'll do the same thing. Step number 2 is our flyers, our fundraising flyers. We'll have a collection of those. And then the last one, or this one for now, be the mission, the vision for the future. Right. And one thing I want to say to everybody, I'm proud of the Negro. Everybody think you'd be disgusted. Not the brother. I'm proud of the Negro. Compared to other people that's been oppressed in the world, the Negroes kind of act a little buffoonerized, but not as bad as they could have been. For people that their language, their culture, their religion, all of it was taken away, and boss man fed him everything that he knows. Remember, if you cut off at the roots, right? You cut off at the top because you don't learn how to read and write till last year. And then when you do read, you read the stuff he wrote. This is ridiculous. They listen to the Negro listen to the news that the white folks have on the news. He don't have, and the ones he think he listening to that's revolutionary, he sent them there too. I listen to WPFW, and I said the WPFW is the police. What are you talking about? I know the guys. Oh, you the police too? Good God Almighty! My lawyer said, I said, you got a lawyer? Shoot, you got the police, right? We're doing very well compared to what boss man is using against us in his organizational structure. And the Negro has none, and you say, well, but they don't use nothing. Hey, man, for the Negro to be alive and not be washed up is a modern miracle, and we know it. It's a miracle. Okay, so he don't have the hidayah. That's I'm talking about for what he's dealt with. You got to remember, who has he been fighting? He's been fighting the champion of the world, boss man. And boss man got can you imagine you got fighting the guy that's got everything on it? He got the best training camp. He got everything on his team, And if you even think about winning, how he do like listening and put the stuff in Ali's things and put his hand, he wipe his head, pretty soon he can't see. And that's just normal for boss man. That ain't like if you ever get in the ring, hey man, we're doing fine. We just got to do better this go round. That's all. Yeah, everybody hates the Negro. I said the world don't hate Negroes. The world like Negroes. I said you could rap flat everything Negroes do. People try to follow it. I remember 20, 30 years ago they had Vanilla Ice. Somebody, you remember that guy? Vanilla Ice. Here's a white boy gonna rap, and they call it, well, it's vanilla, that's true. I mean, what, Vanilla Ice? There's nothing wrong with that. He's gonna imitate, and he might as well call himself Elvis Presley. Or Jerry Lee Lewis. You remember Jerry Lee Lewis, the piano, what about Little Richard? They can't figure out nothing. The Negro, look at here. It was good they had some of these movies like all the black people that did all the women that worked over the space station, right? Now we knew, I can show you in my mathematics stuff from back in 81 and all that, we knew that there was black people involved in the space thing, but we didn't know in detail. Oh, all of them was girls, man, and they was in there typing up when you gonna get there, how you gonna get there. And the main one that, you know what I mean, that their computer is down and they gotta go call her. We didn't know that. We just knew that, yeah, man, this niggas in the back of this hand, I'm telling you. We knew it then, it's in our literature. But now they tell it 100 years later that they wouldn't have been out of space or nowhere without the sisters that's back there counting all that. Can you imagine all that stuff they had to count it up by? Good. Hidden figures. It's ridiculous. It wasn't white women, it was Negro women. How the niggas gonna have that much sense to figure out where the spaceship gonna go, and if the wind blow, it'll blow it over here, and she just started, it's gonna land right there, within 5 or 10 miles of there. They say, what? So sure. But that thing is gonna be going around. It's gonna be gravity, it's gonna be heat, it's gonna be this. I said, well, that's where it'll land. Just go there and it'll be there. Don't you worry. And that's what the white man said. He said that, what's the lady, that's smart one, what does she say about this? She's the one that did it. Well, I'll go with that. Right? That means we've been pulling this stuff all the time. That means somebody, I don't say somebody up there, out there, or around there has been on our team all the time and got a mission for us to do. We just didn't know it. They wanted that mission to be Superfly, so they sell them that. Anything to divert the Negro off of his mission, right? Because everybody in the world know there's something going on with the American Negro. Just think about it. The whole world knows. And Boss Man told everybody here, don't nobody like y'all but us. I said, sorry, Boss Man, but I've been all over the world and all the little kids follow me down the street. In Europe, everywhere. One of my poor friends, this guy, I'm sure he was police because he called me on my 75th birthday and I hadn't heard of him. I was talking on the phone loud. The kids was listening to one of them. What's the coffee place? Starbucks. I said, the last time I saw you, that was January 1st, 1971 at the airport in Hamburg. I'm not at the airport, at the train station in Hamburg. I'm talking loud, because and you calling me here on my 50th. I said, that was 100 years ago. I didn't go into how you get my number, what you've been doing. And it sounds kind of like a drunk, an alcoholic. So the white man had him called, and this was a nice guy. We was there in Copenhagen together, and the white people, the men didn't do it, but the white women would do it. You know them long naturals? This Negro had that one of them long zoop, and like that, we'd be walking down the street, and the people would look at his head was sore because they would look at that hair, and they know their hair can't stand up like that. They know something, nigga got pins in it or got a kite or something. So they would turn around and grab that nigga by the head. His head was sore. And they would pull his hair. This was assault. That's technically white women. They was assaulting the brother. He was assaulted almost every day. Because now think of an exaggerated natural, not a long natural like Andrew Davis, but think about a Negro natural. The only time I saw those natural, there was the African American Negro went over to Africa with that hair, and he went out in the bush. We was gonna recolonize the motherland. And them Negroes from Boston and California went out there, that sweet smelling Afro stuff, all in their hair. Man, them Negroes cut off that hair. They went out there for 2 weeks in them dashikis and them long naturals. The natural will get, first of all, it's in the bush. So your hair get caught in all them bushes. Your head, can you imagine trying to duck down and all them stickers and everything? So the Negro got smart. He said, man, this is not working. And he couldn't find nobody in Africa with that type of natural. They had pigtails, they had this. Then I got caught up in it too, because I remember in 73, when I was in South America, I went back to Africa, and one of the sisters of a beautician used to come see me in South America. She was part of our crew. She was cornrolling. That's when cornrows came out. Stevie Wonder was on the front of the album, and she used to, when I left, they didn't do that, but when I had them cornrows, first your head would be tight, but then they'd loosen up a little bit. So when I got back to Africa, all the sisters, when I would walk by, they would go, hee, 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 hee. Because, see, the men didn't wear them braids. Women wore braids. So finally the brothers told me, no, man, they don't like you. They think he's something. They think I'm a sissy with all these muscles. What are you talking about? No, they think you're sweet as candy. Think you're just sweet as candy. You're American and you got your hair fixed like theirs. So the women wore braids, but the Negroes over here, they wore braids, but they couldn't wear them back home. I said, man, so I pulled all that stuff out. I said, man, let me get back to brotherhood. No, because, the stuff we think about that's African is not African. No, and the Negro went over there. Man, with that sweet smelling, do y'all remember that sweet smelling Afro Sheen stuff? Oh, man. And the bugs, they didn't even know what it was. All they knew, ooh, so the nigga, can you imagine the Negro with them? And I mean, they packed like a beehive. Negro walk out in the woods, and there's a beehive. And in here, in Africa, the lizards cleaning effect. They keep things clean. So in a house, when you look around, you see lizards everywhere. Because the lizard eats flies. But we look at all them lizards, and this is white paint. The lizard can't change that color. So the poor lizard is up there thinking he the same white as that, and he's standing out like, but he eating up all the flies. So the Negro from over here running, get rid of it to kill that lizard, you know. And then we had a big thing, is PhDs everywhere. Yeah, I mean, all doctor, brother, this, that, and another. So big old snake appear on the scene. And the Negro from here, they want to knock the snake over. So the African PhD said that could be one of our ancestors. So what can you do, you know? So, well, evolution, it could have been a while back, but I mean, maybe I'm telling you, the world is, it's really something traveling in the world. Let me get back to finishing off Boss Man. Now, remember, we got Boss Man on the run. Don't worry about it. If you don't know Boss Man is on the run by now, hey, anyway, so we'll talk about this later. Prepare for California. Prepare for California means getting road ready. In fact, we're going to have to get another car because the one that we got, it runs perfect, but it don't, I don't know, whatever the guy did, it still the water goes out. It don't take but turning the little thing. It's simple, but we want to get another one anyway. The other thing is about fundraising that we're evolving back into now. The other thing people think is that since we coasting, we don't do this, we don't do that, they think, oh, everything is falling apart. Everything is not falling. Everything is doing what we know it will do. And we will do it when we get ready. And that is revival. This revival starts basically now. This week was the first when y'all went around a little fundraiser. So before we go back to California, we'll take Dar Hijra, we'll take Islamic Society of Maryland, we'll take IAC, and we'll get one more. So we'll go to those places 1 week. We'll take DVDs that we'll make so they'll know why we're there. And we just give them away. And because by California time, here's what we want to do. We want to get back to California before the end of January. And we also want to raise enough funds to take care of what we do here and also to take care of what we have to do in California. So that means technically we have to be raising Eid money every week, but we can do it. So what that means is we have to take care of here because now, so you got to remember, we don't have any income for here. And we're not going to use them for income. Those will be our strategic management centers. This stage is different than the other. We're not allowing any pressure to make us do nothing. We're doing what we have decided is good for us. Right? Okay, fundraising ain't no big deal. So we'll raise the funds to do that. We'll raise the funds to challenge the government in Oakland. We'll raise the funds to get all whatever hidden, overt, legal representation, because now we're on a counteroffensive. This has been strategic defense. This has been strategic diversions. In other words, if the guy's going to hit you right in the face, you just turn your head like that, but you don't come under and then pop him back, you know. Now, we're dealing more with, let's call it strategic defense. Yeah, that's what it is. We've been dealing with it, but it's been a non-combative defense. This will be a non-combative defense but it's like they teach you to block, punch, right? That's just it. So we'll have short punches. That's all. We'll block everything boss man do. Like we have been doing, I'm telling you, uh, it don't make no difference what other people think, but for the amount of skullduggery and knavery that boss man has been doing, we have been doing very good here because of our attitude. That's the main thing. So fundraising package first stage DC revival, for Oakland. Possible holds on, When we leave here, we're gonna do a couple of things with care, not against care. Let's say with care. And then the Texas Muslim Legal Fund of America. See, no matter what people think about these groups, we absorb this punishment so long that we know who people are by what they do, not by what they say. Right? So remember what you used to call the Legal Fund of America, what is down in Texas? The guy act like he didn't know who he was talking to. Anyway, so I'll go through this later, but we'll have to deal with them. As-Sabiqun. Okay, we'll go through a lot of this day after tomorrow. But 4607, we got a use for that. 4481, Strategic Command Center. 5021, we got all of that. We're not using it for people to live in. That's what they thought we was doing. And that's what we would have did then. And that's what we bought it for before. But now we're building a superstructure. Yeah, a whole superstructure. Like in a few years when you look at us, we won't be doing this. We'll be done moved on. Because this is an evolutionary. Do y'all need a little heat back there, or y'all got enough heat? Yeah, just push it up a little bit here. Okay. So what we're going to do is put together a few packages. Package number one is like we're going to put a package together of an outline of a lot of our old writings, so we'll know, bring people up to where we are and how we got here. So basically what we're doing now is, and what could happen is, where the brother used to print out all of our Chappelle. He used to print out all of our. Could you get him to print out a whole copy of our As-Sabiquns? Right. That's so that the ones that I have now, I'm going to use them to put together a package. So I want to keep that whole thing. I got, as printed. So he got them on his, whatever it is. So could you talk to him about, yeah. Okay. So that'll be finished.
You need actual paper, or you need it on the disk?
No, I need him to use his disc to print it out.
You need paper. You want paper.
Yeah, I want paper. Okay, remember, okay, so whenever he get it to me, I'm going to use what I have now to make up a brief historical, maybe kind of probably be 20 pages or something, overview of where we've been and what, you know what I mean. So if we got a 20-page article, it'll only be about maybe 2 pages I'll cut out. So what I'm gonna do right now is clip and paste a whole, just scotch tape it together, so when I give it to whoever I give it to, they can redo, okay. So that's to deal with where we are and how we got here. You know what I mean? Because during this period, we're going to get out of the isolation. We'll get out and visit. They think we're here permanently. Just no, we've been here resting. And so we'll get back out. And the thing is 3 points. Number one is fundraising. We're not depending on them to supply us with the physical material needs. We're depending on ourselves. So that's why we have all these DVDs ordered, and we'll be duplicating those. But we'll make specific DVDs starting now. Start tomorrow, the next day, and all that. Because the ones that we did before were prototypes. They were venting. We would never distribute like this is supposed to be a fundraiser, and we're saying, you low down cowards, you scared Iranians, da, 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 da. Well, if you did distribute those to even friendly Iranians, you wouldn't get no money, right? So we're developing new. We were doing that for a reason, to get out how we've viewed a lot of this stuff. But that's not what we're going to use as fundraisers. Okay. I'll be as quick as possible, flyers. So that covers our As-Sabiqun. We'll do a As-Sabiqun for the past and the present. We'll do one for the present after that. And then we'll do one for our expectations of the future. That means all the writings that we have collected over the recent years, we'll start writing after that period on those subjects, what we expect for the future, and outlining what we hope for, and outlining what's possible, what type of attitude it takes to do that, right? And how do we verify that this is possible? What have we done? See, we're different than other groups. For us to say that that is possible, we've been battling with Boss Man and not even batting an eye. And ain't nothing he can say that that didn't happen, right? It has been happening, right? It's been happening, and it's for everybody to see. So we want to be an example for the future. What we've done, the historical past, we've already surpassed that. We have topped the line from Malcolm's time, Martin Luther King, and all of those people. We have already outdone what they were dealing with in their time, and explained it, and lived it, and already shown the people what they can do with maximum oppression. And we've shown them the key: never fight another Negro when you got Boss Man, the Zionists, and the Americans out there. And when we accepted and dealt with the attacks that they made on us, that's what it did. That's what they were for. We knew it then, and we know it now, but we really, really, really know it now. And I had to argue with all the people in California. I said, you have to stand down. You have to mind your own business. You can't get into this, and you can't, that stuff is on the film, right? Because everybody wanted to do something. You can't do that. You would be stupid. if you let boss man come and get you to do right what's against your own betterment. No. So thanks to God. Okay, we'll move toward a close. This stuff, post-traumatic growth, that's the period we're in. We've used everything that have come our way for that, not post-traumatic syndrome or post-traumatic slavery disorder, or whatever all that stuff they have. We haven't had that. Post-traumatic growth. Have we been dealing with trauma? Yes, we have. Have we been dealing with fitna? Yes, we have. But we've used it to help us grow and evolve. In fact, we wouldn't be able to get where we want to go if we couldn't jump over stages, right? And that final stage that we've been in is the final stage. And then how do you know it? Is because history tells you, okay, it's time to move on. You know it. And now it's time for us to do, we believe, what Allah wants us to do. Okay. So 10-year R&R. 10-year R&R, rest and recuperation, that's been a trap. They thought, oh, the Negroes is tired, right? And we just play tired. We said the white man think we're tired. So we get along. I'd even get a crutch out sometime. Sometimes it'd be real because the white man put stuff in his stuff. But a lot of times just be playing, oh, boss man, I can't hardly walk. Oh, this nigga is. They sent somebody here from Sudan to study. People that known me for years, used to run with me in the hills in Oakland. You know where them Africans can really run? These guys could run like that. And we used to run every morning or every other morning, long distance, 8 miles, 10 miles, and all that. And they sent one by last year to study where is he at now? Where is he? People have traveled all around the country with me. And he says, maybe they think that that you're finished now, and so there's know that you're older, and it's. I said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just getting old. That's what they want to think. It's okay, nigga getting old. That's partially true, but they forget that just before that we had another session. I'm not even going to remind you what it was. Okay. Always go the other way. Wherever the white man wants you to go, always go the other way. Sustained counteroffensive, we'll deal with that later. Advice for China, Russia, and Iran, we'll deal with that later. But basically, it's don't waste all your money fighting or building up an army. You can tell in the news all of a sudden, China is bad, 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 right? Well, we told them a long time ago, don't go for that. Just keep doing what you're doing. And if they listen to us, we're going to tell them how to have fun with Boss Man, how to just mess with him. Don't go through that. We had to go through, they went through a trauma. No Chinese and dogs allowed in the parks in China. The white man really did them a deal after they'd been there 4,000-5,000 years and all that. That was a trauma. And they wanted to get back, and they done got back. And they fooled the white man. Boy, they did a good job. And you want to know why is the white man mad? Because the Chinaman pulled a Negro on the white man. Yes, he did. Y'all ever heard of Deng Xiaoping? Deng Xiaoping. Now, Chairman Mao said, Deng Xiaoping said, it don't make no difference whether the cat is black or white, long as it catch mice. So it don't make no difference whether the system is capitalism or communism, talking about for China, long as it works. That's what Deng Xiaoping said. He was big in China for a while. In fact, at the meetings before, they all communists before Chairman Mao died, Deng Xiaoping couldn't hear good. And if Chairman Mao was sitting down here at the end of the long table, Deng Xiaoping sat far away as he could, so he couldn't hear him. He didn't want to hear nothing Chairman Mao had to say. So now, but when Chairman Mao turned over China to him, it was a strong country. But Deng Xiaoping pulled the trick of the century. He pulled the old Chinese laundry man, old bossy, oh, we need this bossy, oh, you have poor Chinaman, bossy. He did that. That's in the 80s and the 90s. And when the white man looked up 2 years ago, he said, this Chinaman has got all the money and producing everything. That was the trick. And then the Chinamans pulled the flip of the century. They refused to become Western democratically orientated. That's what Boss Man was hoping. He said, if we hook them up like this, they gotta come our way. No, he said, no, we're gonna do that with Chinese characteristics. Socialism with Chinese characteristics. What type of socialism? Where we can bring 1 billion people out of poverty. Can you imagine? The U.S. done put all these people in poverty, and the Chinamans done brought them all out of poverty. Right? Now the white man is mad. He feel like he's been tricked. But it's too late. It's too late. So what we're saying is to China, don't be like the Russians and try to match the white man weapon for weapon. In fact, just keep on your space program. Because if you keep in space technology, you can have offshoots for all the weapons program you'll ever need in the future from that space program, right? Okay, the point is, another thing, China and Japan. America was number 1. Japan was number 2 for years. And China was number 3. Now, Japan is number 3 and China is number 2. The white man wants China and Japan to argue with each other. Turn around and raise all of Asia up. See, they used to call the Japanese the white man of Asia. Because he just goose-stepped around and took everybody's stuff. I mean, he was a pretty bad guy, after all. But now, the Chinese don't have to pay him back for Nanking, 1937 and all that. Since China then got big, they have to tell the Japanese, hey, homeboy, we're not even going to talk about what happened. Because, see, the Japanese can't go through that, forgive me for doing wrong. Because they'll commit suicide. They'll sit there and cut their own guts out before they admit they was wrong, right? That's a custom in Japan. And they talk about, oh, we don't do that no more. That's a bunch of jive. Bushido and all that stuff is alive and well in Japan now. They go up in the snow, sitting there naked, right today. Managers in big businesses, Japanese, Bushido, all that stuff. Your mind over all this cold. They do that now. So for them to say, I'm sorry, it's like, so we're saying to the Chinese, okay, they did you wrong. They raped and killed hundreds of thousands of people, and they really did. In fact, the Japanese did you worse than white folks did, but you got to overlook it for the betterment of humanity. And that's what we're pushing. And that'll be good for all of Asia. So that Asia will be one solid block, except for India. If they can get them dummies in line, they'll have it. Anyway, it's a long story. Okay, I don't want to be overbearing. Strategic intent with Negro Islamic characteristics. Sure. Strategic intent. Strategic intent with Negro Islamic characteristics. Okay, I won't go through our lessons, our attitude, our historical experiences. That we'll go through that. The main thing I'll mention is, remember, and we've been doing this on purpose, historicize, chronicleize, documentalist, and archivist. We've been doing all of that on purpose. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? So right now we're back on track with focused work. No questions, no comments. Okay, are there any questions from us about anything we talked about? Okay, so right during this period, we'll be kind of heading for a little work.
So, so we're gonna be going out trying to go out every Friday now. Just going to different spots, or a couple of teams going different places.
No, what we'll do is we'll just have one team go out. Or we'll go out, first thing we ought to do is get the DVDs together for each place. So I'll get those hooked up this week. Okay. And then we'll do the DVDs. We'll pass out the DVDs, and then we'll go one or two places per week. It's according to how we want to do it, but we want to make the big shows technically maybe once a month. And this is mid-December already, so we have to have an elevated schedule. But yeah, that's the whole idea. For instance, if we're going to California, okay, we got to tighten up what we're doing here, right? Then we got to prepare for California. In preparing for California, I may drive down to Texas. Remember I told you it's a little phony. Anyway, it's a long story. I may go down to Texas. So it's talking about buying a ticket for there and then to California, and I'll see. But I would still rather have. So what we can do is if you can talk to the brother over and get the cars. Yeah. And of course, the kind of car I want would be a Volvo. I can write it down. Either one of those, like that white one out there. So that's from 2002 to 2008 that they made those. And then one like I have, which is a station wagon V60, something like that. But I'll write it down for him to look for those type of things. And he had promised to help once or twice, so if he might be able to hustle one up fi sabilillah. And then that white one that's out there that's parked and the one I got, they're both perfect cars. But when the white man want them to click, 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 they click, 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 click. Don't be no reason for it. And I'll have to fix the truck. I guess somebody pulled out those freeze plugs.
Yeah, the freeze plug's in that truck.
They're in there?
Yeah. When I got under the hood, I saw it in there. So the water's coming out of somewhere or something else. I don't know what, but
Yeah, isn't that something that the water is coming out?
coming out, but it's not the freeze plug. Because when I went under there to put it in there,
Right.
I saw it in the spot, you know.
Right. Well, I wonder, we just have to look at what the water, could it be the radiator?
Maybe. It's like I could not get a good angle at it. Like
It could be maybe one of them, maybe just a pipe. One of them, we'll see. Anyway, so the truck runs good. We just have to keep liquid in there. Anyway, so we're preparing now to clean up all the past, to explain to people where we've been, where we are, and where we're trying to go. And also let them know that it would be good if they could help, where we want to go, because this is for their benefit, not for ours. And, okay, alhamdulillah. So are there any more questions or comments? Alhamdulillah, bil alameen.